salutations. Welcome to What is Greetings and salutations. I am the Ghoulfather at your service, and welcome to a very special edition of What is in the Box with a very special guest, the originator of Fiend Force Records, as well as lead singer of The Other. I feel the same. Rod Usher, thank you so much for being on.
Hey, I'm happy to be on the show, especially with you, Mr. Ghoulfather. It's an honor.
Oh, truly the honor is all mine, but we'll dive right into it. Now, for any of those individuals who may have been living under a rock, who are not familiar with The Other, could you give them a brief history of the band?
Well, you know, it's always interesting to see that even after 20 years, there's still a lot of people out there who have never heard of The Other, but we're working on that. So that's, I'm glad to be on here. We started out in 1999 as a Misfits cover band, then played our first own song during a cover set in 2002. So that's really the starting point of the band. And yeah, then we recorded a demo with songs like Beware of Ghouls on it and Ripley 8, stuff that were on the first album. And then I decided to start my own record label, Fiend Force. And then in 2004, I think it was, our first album came out. Right on. And then, yeah, we just released our 8th album last year. We charted for the first time. It's a strange word. Yeah, we made it into the charts in Germany for the first time ever last year. We played a lot of big festivals during those almost 20 years with big names. You know, we did video clips. We played all over the world. We toured the States. We did everything that one could do and tried to get the name out there and have a lot of fun while doing it. So that's The Other for you in short.
There are lots of festivals in Germany.
Well, not this year, obviously, and not last year. Yeah. But Germany has a big festival scene. The whole of Europe actually does. There's lots in England. There's a huge metal festival in France. But I think we have the largest one, which is called the Wacken Open Air. We played there twice. We were supposed to play last year, supposed to play this year, and then hopefully it's going to be next year. But, you know, we play there with bands like Iron Maiden and Motley Crue and whatever, those big names. So that's a big thing for us. And when we're on stage, there's 20,000 people in front of us. So that's very a good thing to reach. Yeah, it is. It is. It's so exciting that we almost peed our pants.
Oh, well, then I don't feel bad for what's happened this morning. Now, the one thing, is songwriting a collaborative effort, or is there a main songwriter?
There is no main songwriter, but there's always some members of the band who feel more inspired. You know, there's right now, it's a lot of songs are from our guitarist Pat and from melodies from myself. So it's either, well, Ben and Aaron do a lot as well. They all you know, show us their ideas, and then we work on them together, or I record little melody lines on my phone or on the computer, and then I send them to the guys. They play riffs to them. So it's actually everybody in the band working on the songs, but some, you know, some guys have more, just shoot up more ideas than others, but everybody is responsible. So, and it's a good thing to work together. We're a great team in that.
Well, that's important.
It is, yeah.
Now, the one thing I've noticed, there has been such an evolution in your sound from They're Alive in 2004 to Haunted 2020. And I have to just mention Casket Case, which is so near and dear to my heart. I've noticed you seem to become more complex, more atmospheric. Could you talk about the evolution a bit?
Well, when we started out, you know, we still had the Misfits cover thing in the back of our heads. So we wanted to write the songs that the Misfits didn't write in their prime, songs that they would have written, or maybe we're gonna write, but we wanted to be faster, so that was pretty much a thing. So that's what we did on the first album, a little bit on the second album, and then we tried to go away from that in the sense that we let other influences come into our sound, mainly metal riffs, gothic atmosphere. That's kind of what happens. And what was really important to us was play more with dynamics and not like go right from the first sound and go straight like through the song, but have a little more atmosphere there, take it low and then come back with a bang. And obviously after all those years we've become better musicians. I feel more, I feel better on stage and using my voice as a singer, because I wasn't a singer before, I was a guitarist. And yeah, and the newer members of the bands have been excellent musicians right from the start. So with every new addition to the band, we improve the sound as well. So there will always be people who are, will say like, yeah, you used to be rougher and dirtier before, more punk, which, yeah, true, but punk is not about sounding shitty. We still feel punk rock, and that's our basis. So that's why we still call ourselves horror, punk, rock, whatever. That's the basis to what we do.
Well, it's always more interesting to me to hear bands expand and grow rather than make the same record over and over again.
True. Same with me. On the other hand, I've loved the Ramones, or I still love the Ramones. Saw them live a few times, and nobody wants the Ramones to change. I'm a big Bad Religion fan. Every Bad Religion album sounds alike,
very similar.
And that's how it's gotta be, And you want Iron Maiden to sound like Iron Maiden. So, on the other hand, bands where you go with the flow and feel the progression, like a recent band is Ghost, for example, that I really like a lot, and they. You can tell it's the same band, but they progressed a lot, maybe even a little too much for my taste, with the recent more hard rock Journey style Dance Macabre and whatever it is songs. But they're amazing, and I will keep on following their sound and see what they come up with next. That's exciting.
Interesting.
Yeah, right. And that's how we want to be as well. We don't want to be so reliable.
Yeah. Now, we're all big fans of the horror genre, obviously. Here it's Horror Punks USA. But if you look back at your childhood, is there one horror movie that comes to mind that was the jumping off point? Oh, is it back there? Oh, you have it handy. No, how wonderful. Creature of the
No, I have it. Yeah. No, actually, the first movie that I wasn't allowed to watch, but watched like from the corner of the living room, was a Hammer Studios Frankenstein. I do not remember which one, but I remember at the end of it there was like the town folks with their torches and everything, and they were burnt the monster, and I felt really sad. And same thing happened a few months later when my mom let me watch first Tarantula and then The Creature from the Black Lagoon. And I was always feeling sad for the creature because of what humankind did to the spider or the Gillman or whatever. There was, after each movie, there was a little interview segment with Jack Arnold explaining his motivation about filming this movie, which it opened my eyes to what horror could be, that it's not only about scaring things or scaring the viewer, but it's about touching taboo subjects and looking into the soul of humankind, and maybe the monster that is more human than human. More human than human. So that's
you did that better than I did.
So that's actually an eye-opener for me, and that's when I started to love the horror genre. But I gotta say that Kiss were a big part as well. Gene Simmons' makeup and his dragon monster style on stage, that made quite an impression when I was 9 years old, and still does. So.
Now, are there any other more recent movies that you found inspiring?
Whoa, that's a good question. Well, my favorite movies are The Shining and Exorcist, because obviously they're scary as hell, but they're also they make the supernatural so believable. You don't question at all that these things can happen. You know, there's like all kinds of ghosts in the Overlook Hotel, but it just feels so real. And yeah, I love those movies.
Those two movies, but, I don't think they've ever been beaten.
True.
I don't think
but
so.
there's
wonderful
good
movies out
movies. Yeah. There's I really love the Paranormal Activities series because they were so scary as well. I mean, with almost nothing, it's like there's a blanket being pulled away from a lady sleeping, and you're like, oh, God, I cannot watch this anymore. So those are great. Then I liked The Woman in Black, or I love those ghost movies. I like Conjuring, that kind of stuff. So that's I'm not the torture porn kind of guy. I like old school horror.
So not so much into the Saw series.
Well, the first one was kind of entertaining, but then it just kept on going and going. And then at one point, I just didn't want to see people being tortured to death anymore. And, I like a good scare. I like a good atmosphere, but I don't like torture. I don't like to see people in pain. And that's the main reason for watching the movie. Nah, not for me.
I rather enjoy it myself, but to each his own.
Yeah.
So, now you'll excuse me for a bit of fangirling. I beg your pardon. But two of my absolute favorites I have so many. Beware of Ghouls and Back to the Cemetery. Classics, in my opinion. Now, if you had to name just one, two, perhaps three songs to share with someone, to give them a good idea of what the other was all about, what would they be?
Well, actually, you named the two songs that are very, very dear to me. And
I'm so happy I did that.
Yeah. You recently we played a big festival, and there was like a radio DJ asking me, so what song of yours should I play to make people who've never heard from you aware of your sound? Like, which is the song that describes you? And I said, well, maybe Back to the Cemetery. So looking back, I think that the song is way more metal than a lot of our other songs, while Beware of Ghouls is totally old school from the first album, very punk rock. I think on our last album, Haunted, we have both of these things, and on Casket Case as well. So I'm right now, it's a song that comes to mind is from our new album, and the song is called We're All Dead. And it has very punk rock riffs. It has a middle part that is very gothic, very dark. And I think it pretty much shows what we can do while we have songs like Beware of Ghouls, very punk, Back to the Cemetery, very metal, The Lovesick Mind, very gothic. That's the world we live in, the musical world.
We're All Dead was the track.
Yeah.
Okay. You have to excuse me a moment. I have to speak to my editor. Oh, Reza, could we kindly play a clip of We're All Dead?
Consumption makes us feel alive, a modern tragedy.
Thank you, my darling. She'll handle it. She's just delightful. Reza de Rockefeller of the Mary Lou's and the Destruct Principle. Plug. She'll yell at me if I don't do that. All right, play a little clip. Now, you've been in the music business for approximately 20 years?
Yeah, I played in bands before, but the other has been around for 20 years, yeah.
Now, what has changed from, this could be rather large, but what has changed from when you started to now? The largest changes?
Well, obviously, the way of listening to music has changed very much with the digital distribution and everything. But what I think is a major change is back then you used to release an album and then play shows to promote the album. Now you release an album as an excuse to play shows, because otherwise nobody would book you, because you don't. It's another way around nowadays. Now you have to play shows to be out there. Spotify playlist or a Spotify album will get you nowhere because nobody knows that you exist. So I'm happy that we come from a time when you put out an album and magazines would cover it. There would be interviews. Then the bookers would come say, "Hey, we like your album. Would you play a show at our club?" And this and that. It's not happening like this anymore. All those young bands put out albums digitally. Nobody knows about it. So there's still a lot that a label can do to help with this. And it's a different feeling to hold your vinyl in your hand. So that's the value of music has decreased in a big way. And that makes it so much harder for young bands to come out. And yeah, well, that's what I even myself, I know how it feels. I try to help other bands as much as I can. And I put my heart into our scene and try to help them with my experience. And I can only invite our listeners out there, if you have a question, if you want to know something, if you want to, you know, just get in touch and I'll try to give you my 5 cents.
I'm still a big fan of physical media. I still enjoy it's very tactile. I enjoy the story that an artist tells in the artwork and everything else. It can't be repeated to me. I do think that music has become more disposable, where people they'll listen to something, as you said, on Spotify, and then I don't like that. But when you buy an album, whether it's vinyl or a CD or something like that, it's very exciting to open it up and find out what the artist was trying to say. That's just how I see it.
Yeah, me too. I do listen to Spotify when I'm on the way, you know, and all the time. But I have hundreds of LPs here and thousands of CDs, and you know, Metallica is not gonna go broke when I don't buy their new album on LP. You know,
they might not, but the laws might get angry.
Yeah.
Now, I know you have toured the U.S. before, and are there any memorable moments from the grand old US of A?
Yeah, we've been there twice, and touring the USA, it was mostly the West Coast and you know, like different states on the West Coast and to Texas and everything. We haven't done the East Coast yet, so there's that should be our next thing.
It should.
Yeah, it definitely should. And I get a lot of mails from fiends asking, and we really want to do this. Because it was always fun. But let me tell you one thing: no free drinks, no hotels rooms booked by the promoter, no food by the promoter. Mostly, you know, shitty PAs and everything. No backstage room. That's all things that you experience when you tour the States. Because over here in Europe, things are a lot different. Bands get fed, they get their hotel room paid. They get sound, you know, all that. So when American bands come over here, they're like, wow, this is paradise. And when we went over there for the first time, it was like, okay, so where do we get dressed? Use the restroom, you know, so stuff like that. And there's pay your own drinks and everything. But it doesn't matter, because playing the States is a totally different beast, because it's a road trip. You know, you drive the highway. There's all kinds of side attractions there. I remember that thing in, where was it? New Mexico. It was like the thing coming up, like signs on the highway. And we're like, what the hell is the thing? So it was just some crazy roadside museum with a fake mommy kind of thing at the end of it. So, but it cost us $2, and it was so much fun. So a lot of things, playing the Navajo reservation for the Native American fans, those kids were going crazy. It was in Arizona, Chinle, and many farms. Amazing for us Germans, going there and have like so many kids slam dancing, jumping on stage diving. It was crazy. They were getting wild, and it was amazing. And we always want to go back. And the best thing, I think, was playing the legendary Whiskey A Go Go. I think.
Yeah.
So I know that's really cool. Todd Youth from Danzig and Samhain came out to see us, who's sadly passed away. And that was great. You know, hung out with us in the backstage. And yeah, that was really a lot of fun. And we funny, when we picked up our guitars from ESP in Los Angeles, we met a very famous guitarist from a German punk band right there picking up his gear as well. And we are talking. He's like, "Oh, you guys from Germany? Yeah." We're like, "What band do you play in?" And he's like, "Wieso." Wieso is a very, very big German punk band. And we've stayed in touch ever since. And I went to their shows and everything. So many cool things happens, friendships that will probably last for life from these tours. Yeah.
Now,
So it was great. Yeah.
You don't have any immediate plans. I mean, obviously, with the pandemic, traveling is difficult at this moment. But
Yeah.
once the world opens up again, would you like to come back to the US?
Oh, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely. When I say, you know, there's no free drinks or no free food or whatever, that's just that's ridiculous compared to the experience we have there. The great kids who came out, some traveled like for the whole tour with us. Cheers to Mike if you're watching. So stuff like that. It's just we want to come back. We want to do the East Coast. And right now we're looking at 2023. Because we want to release an album before that, which will probably come out next year if we're fast enough, then do European dates, and then hopefully head over to North America. And we really want to do, you know, we've been around for 20 years, so we're not going to do it for 30 more. So at one point, we really want to go to Brazil and Chile and, you know, South America, all those
well,
territories.
If you decide that you'd like to come to the States sooner, I can assure you that I can personally provide lovely hotels, all of the drinks you want, and I will bake you muffins myself. And I'm quite the baker. No, seriously, we'll talk later. We'll get you over here. All right, let's not dwell on that. Now, we have to touch on Fiend Force Records, of course, just a bit. And it's been a virtual who's who of horror punk legends. Mr. Monster, a Blitz Kid, the Crimson Ghost, as well as yourselves. Actually, my introduction into the wider world of horror punk past the Misfits was This Is Horror Punk Volumes 1 and 2. And I did one of my shows about that. So why do you think that with those so legendary that no one's been able to come up with a Spotify list or another compilation of that level?
That's a good question. I think it was the right thing at the right thing at the right time, because horror punk was virtually unknown at the time. So there was like a few bands playing that sound in the States, in England, in Canada, here, whatever, and nobody really put them all together and made a scene out of it. And I did all that, but obviously Fiend Force put the name horror punk out there, and a Spotify list won't be able to do this anymore. It's the name of a list will not make a scene grow. It will be a great list to listen to, obviously, but holding something in your hand with all the bands in there, the photos, the cover, and then other releases coming up by those artists on those compilations, it's just, you see something grow. You see a monster become alive and become its own kind of monster. And suddenly it just took off. And Hot Topic helped in distributing this. Obviously, we reached a lot of people that would have never heard of this sound before. And all the first releases were amazing. Like you said, the Crimson Ghost, Mr. Monster, that was a 10-inch with Blitzkid. Blitzkid's Trace of a Stranger was the second. Blood-Sucking Zombies, See You at Disneyland was actually the first single release that we put out. Blitzkid, Trace of a Stranger, their live album, The Crimson Ghost, Leaving the Tomb, and those all made a major impact. And then came Nim Wind with Fashion of Fear and Shadow Reichenstein, Werewolf Order. Those were like, every album was different. No album sounded like that's like the Misfits and that's it. Everything was different, but it all fit. So I'm not sure if that can ever be repeated, but I hope the scene will keep growing. And what I really hope for is one band that will make it big, huge, so that not everybody out there will say, well, horror punk, it's all Misfits clones, right? So we need a band And obviously after 20 years, it's probably not going to be us. So we need like a newcomer going out there and becoming huge and spread the word for horror punk for all of us. That would be amazing.
Mr. Monster and Nim Vind are very big, important bands to me. I was fortunate enough to see Mr. Monster play live several times before, tragically, Jason passed away. And the song Glow, which I'm sure you know, it was on the record you put out, that was played at my wedding. That was one of our wedding songs. And when he signed my my copy of Over Your Dead Body, he actually wrote congrats. So he was a good guy. The scene lost a great artist and a great guy when we lost Jason Trioxon.
Absolutely, he was a dear friend. When I was on vacation privately in LA, and we hung out, went to parties together. He was here in Europe with Blitzkid. I met him when he was over here with Wednesday 13. So I would have loved to be on the tribute shows that I think JV
I was there.
Did. Ah, cool. That's great. I would have loved to be there, but it didn't happen, but I was there in heart and mind. So yeah. And what I saw, it was something that Jason would have loved.
I think it was a very special time.
Yeah.
But you already mentioned this, and maybe we can go on a little more. Why do you think there is, unfortunately, so much rehashing of Misfits songs with different lyrics in the genre?
It's something that I've been thinking about so long, because even after all this time, people tell us, oh, you should go back to the old sound, you should sound more like the Misfits and this and that, and after 8 albums. So that's sometimes it's not understandable. Sometimes I know where a fan comes from, but I'm like that myself. I want Metallica to sound like they're like Metallica on Master of Puppets. So I get it, but I think as a young band, you try to sound as much as Misfits as possible because it's rewarding. People will say, oh, that's amazing, the singer sounds like Danzig, listen to them. And you get a lot of word of mouth right away because you're like you're doing a good job as sounding like the Misfits. As soon as you stray away from that, there will be some sort of criticism because people obviously like what they're comfortable with. Okay, I can name, this is a horror punk band, they sound like the Misfits, this is what I expect. It's kind of natural. On the other hand, sometimes it's a bit frustrating to still hear people say, well, you used to be better on your early albums. That
has to be hard for any artist.
Right. I'm glad that we come from the horror punk scene, but we branched out so much that we do play. We played support shows for Danzig, for the Cult, for the Damned, for Wednesday 13, for Ignite, for all kinds of big bands. And we couldn't have done this if we were still the same band that played They're Alive in 2004. So we can now play with metal bands, and we can then give something back to the scene. The bigger we get, the more people discover horror punk. So it's a good thing we go to other places musically and then bring attention back to the scene. I think it's a good thing.
I agree. I love the old school horror punk. Of course.
Yeah, me too.
Of course I do. But there are other bands. There's a band that we support that we've been talking about right now called the Rivals. And they sound, there's a Dead Kennedys influence. There's a TSOL, nothing like the Misfits, but the horror elements are still there, but I want, as long as we're on Misfits quickly, who do you think would win in a fight? Doyle in his prime or Lou Ferrigno?
Wow. That's awesome.
That's a tough one.
Well, they're muscular guys. That's a good question. Okay. I would say Doyle has not really been in a fight. So I would say my guess, because he's such a sweet guy. So I would say Lou wins.
I would think so, just because of sheer brute size.
Probably, yeah.
So what is the scene like in Germany? Would you consider it a healthy scene?
It used to be bigger. Quite a few kids became adults and grew out of it.
No,
So
I haven't.
yeah, me neither. I'm still collecting toys. Yeah.
Oh, not to me. I would never do that.
Well, I think it's a healthy scene, and again, that's we were, since we branched out, we get a lot of goth and metal kids coming over to the shows. Goth girls, thank you, girls.
Thank you, girls. Nothing wrong with goth butts and fishnets. Go on.
Go. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the problem is, or it's not a problem, but there could be more bands. We have some great bands over here, like, the Crimson Ghost, Hellgreaser. There's Rampires, good friends from us. So but there should be more newcomers, and there was recently a cool compilation called Horror Punks Germany, which quite a few bands that even I had never heard of before, and I was impressed. I'm sure that half of them already broke up again. So I think, I think the scene could use a little more new blood, but the new bands are in America, so that's a cool thing. So there's hopefully there's going to be some input coming over from the States to us. And I've, like 10 years ago, I would have said the scene is in Germany, but now I think the scene is more in the States.
Well, that's what I was going to ask next. If there was any, whether they're horror punk or metal, any German bands that we may not have heard of that you would recommend.
Yeah, like I said, Hellgreaser are good friends. There's a band called the Rampires with an R. There's the Fright, who have been around for a long time. Nothing comes to mind right now. I'm sorry if I neglected anybody, but there's a lot of bands here. Obviously, the Spook are a big thing. They have a spin-off called Wolf Skull. They're cool, Danzig sounding guys. So there's the metal scene is huge here. The gothic scene is huge here. So there is room for more horror punk.
Well, that's one thing I've noticed, that there's a lot of American heavy metal bands who no longer play here, but they still go to Germany and play. Because I think it was Blackie Lawless from Wasp, and he doesn't tour here because it wouldn't draw, but he can go to Germany, play easily 30,000, 50,000 people without a problem.
Not him alone, but he headlines festival. The last time I saw Wasp, last time I saw Wasp was like 5 years ago, and there were like, I would say 3,000 people there.
Oh,
which is really cool. And I still like Wasp a lot. And but I'm a big fan of the 80s metal stuff. So I host my own party here in Cologne, which is called Partymonium. And we play only 80s stuff, from Rat to Motley Crue to Dokken and Winger and all kinds of stuff. Bon Jovi, whatever. I know what you're saying, but if you listen to Winger, they're not as bad as you think. Actually, I think they have a
I'll give it a chance. No, I'm trying to think if there was a hair band from that era that I like. Manowar, and
Me too,
a lot of people are not a fan, but I love that Conan stuff. I get into that, all that sword and fantasy type.
But there's one thing, I would be the guy to say, hey, Manowar, you used to be good on your first 5 albums. So
the last one was But all right, now this is a fun part for me, because I was watching another podcast and I noticed behind you have some literature. So you're a reader, and reading is dying. No one reads anymore. And you mentioned a book, which I was excited, and I went out and got. Hunter Shea, The Creature, although you have a much cooler one because it's in German.
Yeah, Die Kreatur.
Be still my heart. And everything in German is just cooler. So I look forward to reading this. I'm reading 2 books right now that I would very much like to share with you, if I may.
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, absolutely. So the first one is from a gentleman, Matthew Miller. He's actually a friend of mine. And this one is called A Punk Rock Vampire Story. And this is the first in the Gravedigger series. And it's a lot of fun. It's a little bit off the beaten path. He's a young author, so this is one I would definitely recommend. I'll put that
Consider it bought. Consider it bought. I love the title already.
All right, I'm telling you, I'll give it to the punks: a faithless priest, a skeptical ghost, a hunter, a magical fairy, a weak-minded professor, and a Cherokee man with a local bartender. I want to see that group fight vampires.
And he needs to have you speak like a little trailer for it. You're doing a great job right there.
Well, you know,
yeah.
I'm a cheap hoe. I'm available. And this one, I'll bet you. Are you familiar with Darren Shan?
Actually, no.
Oh,
Such a freak. But I've
Darren
heard of
Shan.
that.
Yes, he lives in Ireland, and
I know where I heard the title before.
Okay.
It's Evelyn's Casket. David mentioned that to me.
You win.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh, he's too fast for me, ladies and gentlemen. So this was actually the inspiration for Evelyn's Casket, Cirque du Freak. And I take it you've heard the track?
Yes, I've heard the track, and I think it's the best song that Evelyn's Casket has done yet. So
Fantastic.
I'm very impressed.
It beat Blacklight Waltz for me, and that's saying something. And what was very exciting was he actually mentioned it, and this was a big thing for horror punk. The author was kind enough to mention Evelyn's Casket on his page, and he made a playlist of all the people who've written songs about his work, and Evelyn's Casket was included in that. So that's
amazing.
That was very exciting. Good fella.
Yeah.
So,
Did you know that we wrote a song called Castle Rock about obviously the little town that a lot of Stephen King's stories took place, and I got the chance to meet Stephen King, and right, and yeah, he liked my shirt, and I gave him the CD and everything, but yeah, he never put us in his Spotify playlist, and that's a shame. Yeah, I met Joe Hill, his son, too.
Okay, yeah,
and yeah, I have all his books, and actually one I would recommend as well, but I'll tell you later. I didn't let you finish your recommendation. Sorry.
Oh, I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Castle Rock. Now, just help me refresh my memory. Did Salem's Lot take place in Castle Rock?
No, that took place in Jerusalem's Lot, like the title said. But there's like needful things and stuff like that.
That's one. I heard you mention that. This was my original book that I had when I was but a wee ghoul, and look at that.
Yeah, here's all my little inspiration cards in there.
Yeah, and you can see how worn it is. But I took the liberty of bringing out. I know your favorite book is The Shining, and it's phenomenal. But mine would have to be it. I fell in love with that character. But
me too, and I've read it at least 5 times or something. So usually I read a book once. Stephen King books, sometimes more, but it would be one of the most read books.
What are your thoughts on The Stand? Did you enjoy The Stand? Some King fans were a bit iffy on it.
No, I loved it. I read it as a teen, and it came out in Germany I'm not sure about America, in a cut edition. There was like a few. Oh, okay, so same thing. Yeah, and when the expanded edition or the real edition came out, I embraced it. I read it from start to finish, and I thought there were some parts that could have been left out, but being in this world just worked for me. I love the book, and I even loved the miniseries from back then.
Oh, the miniseries.
Yeah. Yep.
Bad.
Well, I was young.
Sure. Well, so was I. Weren't we all at one point, Rod?
At one point.
At one. So now this is another one of my favorite parts. The more modern horror punk bands the last few years that you've come across, which one? Now this is big coming from you, so which ones stand out?
Well, I'm not going to name the old bands because we've talked a lot about them, but obviously there's Evelyn's Casket. I think David is doing a great job with promoting the band, and I'm hoping for a really great recorded full album. I can see this band going far. There's Darker Days. I don't know if you've heard of them. Sound very punk rock, very modern. I think that's a band that could really take off and get people who listen to, you know, modern punk interested in horror punk. So I think Darker Days has a bright future. There's obviously, and now get your little thing ready, 5 Cent Freak Show. And there's Emilio's Dark Ride, great band as well. Very well, not very, but AFI style goth punk. So Dark Ride is really cool as well. And I can yeah, I hope we'll play shows with them. And one band that a lot of people will probably not have heard of is Casket Culture.
No, we were just talking about them this morning. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that recent album that just came out has some killer tracks. So there's some cool young bands out there, and that gives me a good feeling what's going to happen with our scene. So one of these bands that I just mentioned, I think one of them will make it big.
High praise. And if you would like to play with those bands, you know, I can arrange that.
I would love that. Yeah.
All
mean,
right.
I'm in touch with most of them, you know, through that's the good thing about Facebook and whatever. You know, you can just write an email, and obviously, or thankfully, all of them had heard of the other and Fiend Force before. So that was what makes me proud, you know, talking to somebody who's like, what, 20 or 21. He's like, wow, Fiend Force, Rod Usher, the other. I'm like, wow. You know, it's amazing that we were able to influence so many bands and individuals. Yeah. So people tell me, I listened to you guys from junior high on. I'm like, now I feel old.
Well, I've been with you for a little over 10 years. So
that's great. That cool.
Makes me feel old. I have to show off one more thing because I rarely get this opportunity. The first time that 5 Cent Freak Show toured the States, I managed to get my hands on a set list.
Cool. I like the name.
Yes, well, they're from Canada. What can you do?
Yeah,
I did have to elbow a young lady in the face, but I think it's worth it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I have some cool set lists from Kiss and Danzig and
Danzig.
Yeah.
Why do you have to outdo me?
No, but I know how it feels, and the set list is a cool thing. It's like right from the show. To get it signed would be even better, you know. So it's a cool, unique souvenir that usually is not sold at the merch booth.
And it seems to be, Rod, that even, I mean, you've been deep in the scene for a long time. You've done a lot of different kinds of works. You've been a musician, a producer. You still seem that you're excited and you're still a fan.
I'm totally a fan. And the genre horror punk is so dear to me because everything that I love comes together in that genre. You know, it's punk rock, it's different kinds of alternative music, it's the visual, it's the horror. There's all kinds of things. Just it's a mixture of everything that I love. So that genre is so dear to me, and I would like nothing more than to be able to help bands more than I can do right now. I would really like to. Yeah, but we all got to work, right?
Right. Well,
yeah, it would be amazing if the other could just tour all the time and just get young upcoming bands out there to tour with us, like Kiss did for Iron Maiden or Judas Priest, or Iron Maiden did for Motley Crue or whatever. You know, it would be amazing to be able to the big tours that we did, the Hell Nights tours with the other. Resurrects, Bloodsucking Zombies, and who else was on there?
Was Blitzkid?
Blitzkid. It was Blitzkid. Oh god damn. So 4 amazing bands touring together. Stuff like this would be amazing to happen again. But as we talked about before, times have changed.
Yes.
So nowadays we cannot ride around in a nightliner anymore.
Was one of those stops in a Cologne?
Definitely. Yeah, that's my hometown.
Yes, that's where I saw the video. I miss
okay.
I miss nothing. That's why they call me the historian. So, all right. I wanted to save a moment to give you an opportunity for some final words. The floor is yours, Mr. Usher.
Yeah, I talked so much already. That's the thing, you know, you give me a question, I keep rambling on because it's so much fun.
We love your ramble.
Thank you. I enjoy this very much, and I'm very glad that we get to play for all the kids out there, and not only here in Germany but all over the place, and that for so long. And that's unique, inspiring, it's heartwarming, it's everything. And yeah, I would love to thank everybody personally, and hopefully we can tour more and do that. So thank you to everybody.
Well, on behalf of Horror Punks USA, we'd like to thank you for coming on. Be sure to like and subscribe. Do you think this was easy? Getting the godfather of horror punk? Well, it wasn't. Yes, it was. So thank you again, Rod. It's been a lot of fun. And say something for me in German. I love it so much.
Es hat sehr viel Spaß gemacht, auf der Show zu sein, und dafür werde ich euch alle nicht umbringen.
Oh my. And what did that mean in English?
I said it was a lot of fun being on the show, and because you listened, I will not kill you.
Oh, so it was terrifying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again, Rod. And thank you all for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't already, for goodness sakes, check out the other. You won't be disappointed. So until next time, we may be freaks, but we are not alone.